Hey guys, it's AposThriceGreat once again, and today's video is going to be about representation and why it matters. But before that, I have for you all today some Second Assault DLC gameplay on Operation Firestorm, Caspian Border, also a little bit of Gulf of Oman, and some Operation Metro 2014. These maps, well, the Second Assault ones anyway, are some of my favorite maps from Battlefield 3. And it's really cool to, see them again in Battlefield 4. Also, for anyone who actually plays, the China Rising DLC is available for free today on the PlayStation Store. So definitely pick that up. It's going to be great. You're going to see a lot of that in the coming videos, and it'll be cool. So, yeah, representation and why it matters. We can't really get into why representation matters without first, deciding for ourselves whether or not it does matter. And so, yeah, it does. And as far as why it matters, I've noticed that most people, be it in writing or in conversations when they're speaking about this topic, come at it from the angle of representation matters because of the consequences of its absence. And that's to say that representation is important because of what occurs when it's not present. And that's definitely a valid stance, but I like to come at it from, while also looking at the other angle of representation is important because of what life can be, what life is like when you are represented. And or at least look at both, aspects. And to do that, we have to think long and hard and find a group of people or a culture that is not hurting for lack of representation in today's society. And I don't know about you guys, but I can only really think of one. And that group of people is white people. And that culture is Western culture or Western civilization. And so today we're going to take a look at our society's ultra-focused representation of white people and Western culture. And we'll talk about the effects of that focus on those who are represented and those who are not. So let's start with early childhood. From the moment that you enter the public education system, you are repeatedly force-fed the notion that all of humanity's achievements and progress is to be credited to white Europeans. We are taught over and over again that aside from Europe, the rest of the world was just this intellectually stagnant and savage jungle filled with black and brown people who were doing nothing worthwhile and just waiting for white people from Spain, Portugal, and Britain to colonize them and lead them out of their savage ways into the light of science and reason and Christianity. Which is a fallacy, but that's not the point. The point is that young white kids who are not to be blamed for this twisted educational system. These kids didn't ask to be born into a world in which, due to thousands of years and generations of violence and subjugation, they happen to find themselves seated at the very center of what society defines as a human being. These young white kids are learning that all of the great white people from the past are people that look like them and people that they can relate to, which at best is, really fucking inspirational, but at worst is like, whatever, who cares, history is boring, blah. But to look at it from the other side, children of color and black children are being taught that their only contributions to society were like human sacrifices and getting killed off by Christopher Columbus and the conquistadores, and black people being enslaved, and then their subsequent struggle for freedom, and then the civil rights movement in the 60s, culminating in the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who died for black people's sins, and then white people were able to accept us into society, and now we live in a post-racial society where everyone is treated equally and life is great, or whatever. Elementary school was a long time ago. And so there's this gigantic disconnect in what these stories are about, depending on whether you relate more to the main characters in the stories who are going around discovering shit and inventing shit compared to what it's about when you're a supporting cast member getting murdered by conquistadores or sold across the Atlantic Ocean. And even further than that, I would argue that not only does the educational system instill the idea that white people are the only humans that ever did cool, useful stuff, it also to a point instills the idea that white people are the default human race, and that all other types of people are a sub-variation of that white standard. And this is because of representation. And you can see evidence of this if you talk to little kids, children of color, and black kids do this a lot. They do this a lot, where if you show them a picture of a white boy or a white girl and ask them what's the picture of, they'll say it's a boy or it's a girl. But if you show them a picture of a black boy or a black girl, they'll say it's a black boy or it's a black girl. And I'm not talking about like, sequentially, like if you show the white picture first and then show the black picture, which is obviously different, then they'll add the black to change it. I'm saying just in general, if you show them a picture of a black boy, they'll say it's a black boy, not it's a boy. And so that is very fucked up. Representation is so important that at this stage you can either feel like you're akin with all the legendary people from the past who ever did any dope thing ever, or you can feel like you yourself are a step removed from your idea of what a human being is. You get me? It's real. And so whichever of these two mindsets you've been taught to have will follow you throughout your life and inform your perspective on every other piece of information that you're presented with until the end of your days, or until remedial therapy, whichever comes first. And it gets even deeper than that, because there's all sorts of intersectionality to consider as well. Right now we're just talking about the difference in representation just across racial lines, like white and black, but there's also the difference in representation across the gender binary that you see so often in pop culture, movies, TV, and other media, that says that men can earn the girl that they want through a personal story arc where they overcome some hurdle in their lives, and then they're rewarded with their choice of a love interest. Trigger warning. And that's why you get so much of this male entitlement mindset that causes guys to think they deserve to have whatever girl they like, and if she doesn't reciprocate that affection, then there's something wrong with her. She's a bitch. She's stupid. She only likes asshole guys. And that mindset causes violence against women, rapes, murders, and killing sprees, like that kid Elliot Rodger, who murdered like 9 chicks because he couldn't get laid. Women are often represented in society as just trophies for hardworking or cool men, and a lot of men internalize that idea and punish women for doing things to the contrary. Things like saying no. There are hundreds of articles about women who were shot, killed, stabbed, etc. for rejecting guys that thought they deserved them. And it all stems from the representation that we all see every day and internalize and develop implicit biases from. And that's just the representation across the gender binary. And there's even so much more intersectionality that we haven't even touched on yet. Like, outside of the cisgendered heterosexual binary of a straight man and straight girl, there are gays, lesbians, asexuals, transgendered people, two-spirit people, queer people. And to add more detail to the idea that white people are the default, in reality, it's cisgendered straight white men that are the default. That means that a straight white man is at the center of what the idea of a human constitutes in the society. A straight white woman is represented like a half step away from that center, and they have to deal with wage gaps professionally, murder and rape if they reject the wrong dude, etc. A straight black man is represented at one full step away from that center, and they have to deal with systemic and institutionalized racism. We have to deal with being considered so far away from human, so alien, so other, that at 12 years old we can be gunned down by 2 police officers in broad daylight on site, and they can legally defend themselves by saying that they were in fear for their lives. And that's okay. And that's at 1 step away. A straight black woman is represented as anywhere from 3 to 5 steps away based on the color of her skin and the compliance of her hair. And they have to deal with everything that a straight white woman has to deal with, compounded by everything that straight black men have to deal with every day. And then even additional shit that only applies to black women, like how even within the black community people talk down and shit on black women. And we're still talking about cisgendered heterosexual black women. Imagine, like, this is only 3 to 5 steps away from the center. A black trans woman who likes girls and isn't classically pretty is like 17 steps away, and the potential problems that they'll face are compounded with every step further out from the idea of the center. So yes, representation is hugely important. It's insanely important. It is one of those invisible things that kind of, you know, it like invisibly writes the rules of our society from on every plane, every facet, from your social interactions to what jobs you're expected to have or be able to excel at, to, you know, whether or not you will have a voice within your government, or if your government will do things that are, you know, in your best interest. If you are represented in your government, do they give a fuck about, you know, your wants, your needs, your life? Doesn't matter. So it's hugely important, and I just want to hear your guys' thoughts on it. If you have any questions, comments, you know, contrasting opinions, concerns, whatever, please put them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to have a further discussion about this or anything else that you guys think is important. What should my next video be about? And yeah, once again, thanks so much. It's AposThriceGreat, and stay woke.